the center of excellence role, I'm more thinking from the perspective that how I can bring these teams who are very operational, start changing their mindset, start learning from them that, okay, what are the key challenges in the operation space? How we can do something better today? And then I can make use of these into the transformation side and growing.
First of all, amazing advice and words of wisdom. It was really, really interesting and deep. So thank you for that. Welcome to 31C Data Talk. My guest today is Pardeep Kumar, transformation leader at Digicel Group, based in Kingston, Jamaica. Pardeep, pleasure having you on the show.
Hi, thanks, Jordan, for the great invite here. I believe the timing is just accurate. I'm going through some of these things on a day-to-day basis, and when I saw the invite, I think it's perfectly fitting well.
Our pleasure. So, Pardeep, for those who don't know yet, can you please introduce yourself and what do you do at Digicel?
Yeah, so it has been a long journey with Digicel, to be honest. But currently, I'm doing the more of a transformation lead role in BSS domain, as well as I'm director for operational side of things, which is like we call it Center of Excellence for the IT applications and BSS. So that's pretty much the summary. A lot on the plate here.
How many years are you working there?
So with Digicel, it has been, I would say, close to 16 years now in 2026. So I came like a very young boy in 2010, and not young anymore, but yes, it has been long and very pleasant journey so far.
Nice. So what does it mean exactly, transformation, in your team and Digicel?
So I think, to be honest, the word might have been making rounds in, let's say, the telco space and the industry in general, but the transformation is always there. For any kind of industry, it's a continuous process. The only thing how we look at in a digital specific way is we are no longer that young country. Like the company started, let's say 2001, we launched our first market, which was Jamaica itself. And as things move on, at that time, we deployed the latest available technologies, whether it was 3G launches, whether it was about state of the art Ericsson BSS system at the time, best possible things, right? But as things move, you have to keep reinventing yourself. So I believe the transformation is more of a journey to keep reinventing your, and at many layers, not only the systems, not only, let's say, what people do, the different things they need to acquire to do their jobs better, how we how we sell, and also how we actually get in touch with the customers. So 15 years ago, I believe the most common method was people having to stand in the queues, visit the store, or even show up at the office front desk. It's slightly moved to IVRs, and then we are now in AI bots and self-care, self-help. So a lot have changed. So I believe the transformation is just a journey from going from one place where you are today and envisioning yourself in a better future and just making those leaps in bigger or small steps as best possible.
So let's talk about resilient, because you basically provide a telecom provider at the Caribbean. It's challenging environment, some hurricanes, you have like smaller villages. How do you address resilient in your company?
Yeah, and to be honest, that's actually very core of Digicel. Even when we started or set the foot in the Caribbean, most of the Caribbean, like if you see the footprint, it's geographically everywhere. We call it Caribbean, but the reality is we are like a bunch of 26, 27 island countries, which have very different kind of challenges. There is a vibrant culture. People are like, super, I would say, helpful and joyful. So you see that side, but at the same time, this is a hurricane disaster prone area, as well as earthquake zones. Some of the fault lines just go through these plates in the Caribbean, as well as we are not that well connected through optic fibers even today. So we have to kind of make sure that we are always resilient against these kind of, let's say, geographical challenges, as well as the resource challenges. So the resilience pretty much play a very important role in both Digicel's current state and has been very kind of core of what we deliver. We want to ensure whether it's a hurricane season, high rainfall, or even some kind of disaster hit any country, the first thing we can offer back to our customer is the services. And to ensure that, to start with, the services are not even impacted. So there's a lot of hard work which goes behind the scene to ensure those things, business continuity, as well as service back to the customer is intact. So whether it's about geographical redundancies, whether it's about high availability systems, and of course, in many ways, the new, let's say, cloud-based applications are also helping us to achieve that goal because we are no longer, restricted to use bare metal technologies anymore. So
Yeah.
that's where we put the resilience at the forefront of everything we deliver.
So what does it mean to stay agile inside telecom company like yourself?
Sure. So I think the prime focus, let's say, I'll just talk from the BSS perspective first. So while the network, it's already very complex, we need to ensure that what our business is demanding from us and our customers, the service level SLAs are always running. And of course, it's a business where you will see now you have 3 or 4 operators. So the kind of products and the speed which we want to bring out in the market is pretty, I would say if you compare it, it may not be same as some of the Southeast Asian countries, but it's actually up there when you compare against Europe, North America, even Central America or South America. So the how we deliver products and services is much more agile, and we have to ensure that whether it's about product configuration, whether it is about the touch point, the digital touch point, one, they are delivered in a pace that is pretty much you think today and you can deliver tomorrow. Is that kind of mindset. And that mindset, we don't want to really change it. We rather adapt to it, even if, sometimes it takes more than what we can do. And the reality is that is the basic DNA of the Digicel has been in the last 25 years. And that's give the real challenge to folks like me who are sitting in the back end to be able to, do something special every day.
Yeah.
And that's where we bind that, okay, whatever we need to fix in the back end, whether we have to ensure that our CI/CD is working perfectly well, the software engineering team is delivering something every sprint out, all those things just come together to make sure that, we're our customers as well as the product guys, they're happy. They can bank on us. So that's where I see we are like agile to the best possible ways.
And how does transformation come into action? Like where does it actually where you implement innovation and transformation in such a industry that's evolving all the day?
Yeah, very good question. I believe it's going back to the same concept that when we launched, we were very innovative. We were brand new. We didn't have the baggage of, any legacy kind of architecture or technologies. But today, after 25 years, we are a mix of everything. And sometimes I laugh about it that most of the telcos, they sought to start becoming museum of technologies, right? So, and sometimes we feel proud also in that, okay, I have worked in CDMA. I used to work in 2G. But the reality is the focus is 5G and 6G. And we need to ensure that, these baggages which we are carrying, it's not a sole, let's say, job of the telco operator. We have clients which will be using probably the modems which do not support 5G. They are using their infrastructure, they're plugging using old APIs. So it's an ecosystem which needs to be, challenged and transformed for the better future. So we
Yeah.
know the futuristic services are not going to be able to survive if we continue to work things old way. And that's where the transformation start to play its very core and fundamental role.
Yeah, but as a telecom operator, you obviously have some legacy tools that you have to keep working because everybody knows them for years. But how do you implement AI that's changing everything rapidly? How do you do this change? Because it's not always easy. You as a transformation leader, it's probably come more natural to you, but as an organization, as a big company, as a big group, so many regions, how do you really implement that? Take me to your day to day and how do you actually do those conversations?
Sure. So I think we are working both the top down and down up kind of approach, right? Obviously, when AI as a buzzword started, everybody wanted to just jump onto that, right? But the reality is, even to implement some of the AI use cases, not only you need the right kind of infrastructure, you also need the right kind of training. Like there are use cases, probably they are very good when you look at from an AI lens, but they may or may not give you the business value you are looking for. So the first thing I would say we started, and that started 6 to 8 months ago, where we started to have that ingestion first at the people's mindset that, okay, AI is here not to take somebody's job. It's not the role of the AI, but it's here to help you do your day to day things better. So the small adoption we started with mostly with Microsoft, they have those AI clients, whether to, simplify your day to day work, even small things like, trying to go through your emails, trying to give you some schedule, which is more, worth the effort. Those kind of things we started internally just so that people can start to understand the benefits they can reap in on a day-to-day basis. And then we took it more of a software engineering side where we started to say that, okay, don't worry about how we implement. Just try to do some kind of brainstorming sessions where everybody in the business start to bring their ideas to us. So we are not like blocking ourselves what we are thinking, but we are looking and shopping the use cases everywhere in the company. So that exercise has been going well so far. So where we are, why in the back end we started to set up, our own kind of CDMs or even start to look at some of those plugins, what we can do with out of the box things available in Claude or even Microsoft or even ChatGPT. And while we learn, so basically we start the learning curve with the techies behind and the people who are super interested as well in this domain. We also started to convey this message company wide, right from the CEO that, the AI is here to stay. So what we need to make sure is that everybody can participate in that journey rather than trying to hold on to something. So even if the finance is struggling with some manual use cases or they're struggling with something which they got from a vendor and they can't really make sense of it and they have to spend hours and hours on Excel sheets, on BI reports and whatnot. So those kind of things we actually, with the open mindset, we are just reaching out to these our customers within company to give us those interesting use cases. And obviously we started to do some prioritization, some kind of cost benefit which it is going to bring in the short order and start to work on the pilots. So right now we are in that kind of approach. We want to ensure that at least 6 to 7 different domain related pilots are out there. The customers as in the other domains within the company can start to have a sense of those, how better they work, how we can improve as well, because obviously AI is never going to about one step shops. You are not going to just buy it as a product, but it's just a framework which you have to keep investing, keep learning, try to make modules which can start to self learn and eventually self perform. So that's where our mindset is going with the AI. And obviously, one of the key things which we are looking forward is that once we can transform these BSS systems, even some core systems, we can leverage on those open APIs to plug into our AI agents and then start to deliver something even more meaningful to the BI layer, to the commercial layer, finance layer.
Interesting. So you mentioned earlier you're also a director of the Center of Excellence. Can you share a little bit about what it is?
Yeah. So basically, I have been an operations guy as well for last 10 years or so before starting my journey into this transformation side. So that side was not very new to me, but looking at from a different lens now. So I was more involved in the the one part of the BSS, but I was very strongly into the product side of things, like working with the commercial guys, what they want to implement, how they want to design this product and also interfacing with the core guys, because that's where the technology is actually sitting, which we are selling. So my forte has been kind of interfacing these two domains. I'm like a middleman or a bridge between the two entities. And now at a center of excellence, I'm more looking from the different lens of, okay, one, how it can help me into the transformation which we are bringing in. And obviously, one of the key things which I have learned hard way as well, and from the examples around, that you cannot transform if your present is in a bad state. Right. And that's where the center of excellence comes into play. If the engineers have to be continuously busy trying to fix something, they are always in a firefight, then your transformation speed as well as transformation focus will keep on deviating. And the impacts are ripple. Like it's not about only the team who is, driving the transformation or actually doing those new deployments, thinking about API. But if you have one outage in a telco space, you are pretty much going to halt everything what you're doing. and the focus will move to that outage or that incident. You want to fix that first. So I believe the center of excellence role, I'm more thinking from the perspective that one, how I can bring these teams who are very operational, start changing their mindset, start learning from them that, okay, what are the key challenges in the operation space? How we can do something better today? And then I can make use of these into the transformation side that, okay, we need to ensure that the problem which coming from, right from the people who are dealing on a day-to-day basis, how we can make sure that they are addressed in the best possible way when we are transforming these systems, or what additional processes we need to think about. And even certain things, I'm sure when you start a program, you're not thinking about everything possible because the focus is really go from point A to point B. But the operational lens helps you to kind of appreciate the challenges they have today and whether we are addressing 80% of them, 90% of them, what's the hit rate here. So it gives me that flexibility as well to keep changing my hats from an operational lens and then coming back in the transformation and start to find answers to those questions. So I think it's a pretty challenging but very good perspective.
Yeah, that takes me to my next question. In your perspective, what makes Digicel Group so great?
So I think it's the brand. And to be honest, the customers hardly think about whether we are running some kind of virtualized servers or we are doing some migration, which is, stateless, or we are deploying our latest, let's say, security firewall or, some, fancy things around there. The reality is customers see you as a brand and the value you bring to them. So Digicel has been pioneer in that. So even when I landed and we had not yet launched in some of the markets, so we were only live in Jamaica, and back in 2006, 7, that was my first kind of stint within the Digicel. And we were supposed to launch in South American, Caribbean countries, which are like Guyana, Suriname, Trinidad, Tobago. And I can see the field already. And they are like sitting probably 1,500, 2,000 miles away. Very different culture than to Jamaica. And the news is coming, no website, etc. People consuming news through radios, television, etc. Still, they came to know that something has happened in Jamaica, and there is this company which is backing that how they can bring a mobile phone in the hands of the customer. So I think that background work was already there. People started to appreciate the color red, which is the color of the Digicel, even before Digicel even entered in those markets. So the brand value, I believe, was something which Digicel put a lot of effort in building that. Behind that, of course, we launched the state of the art networks. We ensure that we work with all kind of possible standards to make sure when there's a hurricane, there's any other disaster like earthquake, we are able to recover the services in minimal time frames, and as well as ensure that there is a business continuity. And over the years, we are now sort of not only we are having the customers who are dependent on us, there are businesses which are dependent on us. The government and agencies depend on us. So they have been like a full ecosystem which Digicel able to provide in the business, and they're able to give that through a world class infrastructure. I think that is also key, right? It's not like some of the businesses that you can import something from, Asian markets or China and you can sell it here. You have to
Yeah.
build right everything here and you have
How's
to,
it?
sell it.
Yeah. So how is Jamaica tech industry there? Like people know Jamaica from so many other industries, sports, travel, but how is the tech scene over there? How do you feel? Do you have a support from the government? How does it work?
Absolutely. So, as most of our countries or the island markets, they are developing countries. But the biggest advantage they have is most of them are English speaking. That is one. And the education is pretty nice, I would say. Even my kids study here from the get go. One has just passed the high school. But basically, what I figured out, and with time, initially we thought we have to keep bringing a lot of people from outside into the Caribbean and Jamaica because of the, let's say, the deficit in the knowledge or deficit in the universities, colleges, and the kind of courses we might not be able to get the right talent. But we were like surprised to the best, to be honest. Over the time, even within my own domain, I have hired close to 70 to 80 people, all freshers from the universities. Majority came from Jamaica, some came from El Salvador, Trinidad, and all of these, what we have realized in Panama, that while they look very, kind of offbeat travel destinations, easy to go around, but the tech is really pumping up high. The universities, the kind of knowledge base they are delivering there, the kind of, let's say, ecosystem they are producing, you can find that one of the best possible engineers also available here. And no doubt, if you see now, if you Google something about Jamaica, you probably will find like 10 or 15 tech startups happening here in different domains. Of course, in AI domain, in mobility space, in connectivity, in IoT space. So they are basically now started to think that, okay, what we are doing is not only for Jamaica. We have to start thinking global. And all the new engineers which we are even hiring, they are already ready. Our training time is like just 6 to 8 months, which used to be probably 2 years, 10 years ago. And that 6 to 8 months is also not to teach them something about, whether it was about programming languages or what are the new standards, the APIs. No, it's more about just to make sure they are fitting into the culture. Rest, they are already ready. So that's, I think, I believe you will see that Jamaica, Trinidad, and some of the other Caribbean countries, they are not short of talent. Only thing is how we retain them, because they are talented, so everybody is looking for that. So obviously there is a big migration into USA, Canada, UK, Europe. But of course, we are doing our best to retain them here. We want them here.
How do you measure success? Like what success looks like to you?
Yeah. So I think the success is actually it's a big subject. I don't think so. There is any one definition which fits everybody. Right. At a human level, you have to define your own definition of the success, because the story actually starts with you, whichever part of the country or, part of the planet you are in. And then you start to build a story into it. And of course, for me also, I have been through many of the different kind of thinking, like how I want to define success. So first for myself, and then for the nears and dears around me, and then of course in the professional space, what's the success mean to my team and the people I work with them on a daily basis, right? So I don't want to narrow down the definition of the success here, but for me, it's important that every day you enjoy, you do something better the next day. And even something didn't work today, make sure you can do some more effort to make sure it works tomorrow. So that has been my mantra for taking things as they come. And of course, that is also part because I have been heavily involved in operations over the years. And for us, when you fix a problem, everybody can celebrate, but we are now sort of also waiting on the next problem because it's going to come. So we need to be ready. For success for me is that, okay, one, how I can ensure that when the day ends for me, it's very fulfilling. That I have achieved, at least 80% of what I started with. Even for this podcast, I was thinking like, okay, this is morning 9 a.m. thing for me. For this 1 hour, I don't want to think about anything else. I want to ensure that, okay, it's a meaningful conversation. It may not go the way I'm thinking, but it should go the way I believe later on I reflect and I say, it was good. It was fine. It was satisfying. So I think that's the space I work with when it comes to success. Of course, there are other things which at a personal level, we all aspire to, we want to go into, whether to grow vertically up or whether you want to do certain things on your life or for the people around you or even people not around you, And that's one thing which over the time I have sort of started to think, I have become more empathetic as an example. So now I no longer enjoy that success from just going to a resort and trying to spend some quality family time. That to me start to look more and more, something you have to do because that's the family time. And the further you can go with a pack as a family, the better it is. You are not distracted by the mobile phones, constant emails or
Yeah.
messages, etc. So that works. But end of the day, I also started to reflect on with this passing of these hurricanes years after years, earthquakes, kind of geopolitical things which keep on happening globally. All these things actually start to impact. And the definition of success for me actually is evolving. So I'm no longer that guy who's chasing some kind of material things most of the time. They are still required, but I started to take those things as more like, they are required to make you survive, but try to find a bigger meaning whichever way. Whether it is you want more solitude, or sometimes I want to go and spend some time with the family, or I want to just have a talk with my gardener and just try to understand what are his problems. And that start to give me a different perspective that, okay, we have to ensure that we not only measure success in what's happening in professional domain. Indeed, that impacts everything else. We can't, think differently, but then keep on adding these other values throughout the system and start finding the success in everything. And I don't know if sounds funny, but sometimes I keep applying what I've gained in the professional world in my personal space as well. Because when we achieve something here, we a project well done, or some lesson we learned because, some human error happened, or some systems die because nobody was paying attention to it. And when we fix it and we make sure that the process is changed, I go back and also see around in my personal space. And many things are actually very similar. We were not attending to that refrigerator from last 3 months, and finally it has died, or the water filter is not working, or the gardener was complaining about his kids because his kids are not listening to him, and
Yeah.
he, having some tough challenge. So I think those kind of things I would say are all part of the success, and we don't need to label the success as such. That's where I'm going now.
Wow. That was, first of all, amazing advice and words of wisdom. I
Thank you.
didn't expect that full of an answer, and it was really, really interesting and deep. So thank you for that. And I want to thank you for the beautiful conversation. It was really interesting, and it was a pleasure meeting you.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you so
And
much.
see you around. Yes, to be honest, and I have one follow-up question for you and for your listeners, and maybe somebody who is coming later on your show.
That's a great.
So basically, as in the technology space, and I see you yourself are involved in multiple things, right? How we define, like, while the technology is moving very fast, right? Like how I see it as, probably when I started into telecoms, people were still having landline phones. We quickly moved into, let's say, mobile phones. We quickly are moving into this AI space. At the same time, if you look at how people used to consume their mobile phone itself, it was probably 90% of the time was voice. It moved to 10% of data to now close to 99% of data. And within that data also, you have probably 60 to 70% all just purely streaming video content. And the space which was allocated to, a technology which was very desktop kind, it moved to mobile, but also that space is now taken over by the technology pieces at the back end. But everything is content. Even this podcast is a content. And people started to consume everything as a content. And this is not stopping. I don't see it, changing for next 5 to 10 years. But where do you see that as a leaders like myself or yourself, what are the key traits or capabilities, one, we need to develop to upkeep with this latest new generation, new APIs, new technology changes, as well as like how we remain relevant, in this space? Because at the end of the day, probably we are the generation who saw all of these getting developed. Some of us even participated to bring these technologies into where they are today. And we want to be relevant because it looks like these are our babies.
Yeah, I think that related back to your question is about happiness and success. It's staying authentic and staying true to yourself. And I think that what makes good content and relevant, and not trying to chase and get distracted by everything that's happening. If you stay centered, I think that would make you more successful in everything that you're going to do. And if you talk to content, I think that's what makes the difference nowadays, because everything is so replica and AI and superficial, So I think that would make a difference. And that's a
Excellent.
great question. Now I might take to the next guest.
That would be nice. I will look forward to hear the thoughts on that. Yeah. Thank you
Awesome.
so much.
Thank you, Pardeep. It was a pleasure. And I look
Thank
forward to
you.
meeting you face to face.
Take
Ciao.
care. Bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.